Hey, welcome back to I'm Just Gonna Say It, episode 31. Today will be the first episode in a series on the resource-based economy and the money-free economy, whatever you want to call it. I talked about this once before in an earlier video, and we're gonna dive into it a little deeper now in a new series called Utopolis ONE. So let's not waste any time. Here we go with number 31. Today we are going to start a journey into the money-free, resource-based economy. Now I realize that for many people this sounds like some idealistic place far, far away in time. And when I promote this to people, they either think I'm a utopian dreamer or they think I'm a communist. But communism without money is something very different already, and still this would be a crude comparison at best. I'm not the first to suggest such a system actually. Scientist and engineer Jacques Fresco, for example, has dedicated a large portion of his life to the development of the Venus project. I mentioned more about this in an earlier video I made about AI and the future economy. If you haven't seen that one yet, I advise you to take a look at that as well. Now I want you to sit back, relax, and let me paint a picture for you in your head. A picture of the near future. Imagine a global system where it is not demand in the first place, but availability of resources that drives economic decisions. A system where sustainability is a prerequisite. After all, not taking this into account is akin to putting your head in the sand, and not something anybody should want to do in light of the heritage we leave for our children. Now in this world, there is no politics like we know today, where decisions are driven by economic interests, corporate interests, and things of that nature. Decisions involving society in this world are made by scientists, engineers and other people who have devoted their lives to the mastery of a certain field, instead of devoting their lives to trying to slither up the ladder of modern politics. It is through science and engineering, in short the scientific method, that you eventually reach the answers that is most efficient to any question, unbiased by other interests, which always revolve around one thing anyway: money. This is the only right way to make decisions about such matters, while today we let a group of money-hungry, fame-seeking and often underhanded swines with generally little knowledge or study in the field they are trying to govern, rule our world. In this new world where there is no money and there is no political debate, all people share the same common goal, the same dream: the advancement of self and society. And since there is no money or any form of trade or barter anymore, there is no competition, which frees up an enormous amount of production capacity. Products, in addition, would improve tremendously where resource efficiency is concerned. Today, even the stuff that doesn't change a lot over time technology-wise is made to break. After all, producers want you to keep buying their products, their stuff. But in our new world, this is not the case. Since production isn't directed solely by demand anymore, but by need and by what is sustainable, waste is a thing of the past. You will no longer see empty office buildings or yards full of unused cars. Ownership as such will be markedly different. All the stuff you own today that's just lying around 95% of the year doing nothing will be acquired through a library type system, where items are returned. With minimal hassle, of course, due to the advancements of technology. All resources belong to everybody and everybody has access to them. The average standard of living of every person in this world is way higher than that of even the most wealthy people today. As much as possible is left to computers, not only where automation is concerned, but also, and maybe even more so, in decision making. Government will be computerized as much as possible, efficient and free of error. That also means that pretty soon 95% of the work will be performed more efficiently and aptly by computers than by any human, giving us loads of free time. And all that extra time we will have will be spent socializing, learning, having time to actually raise your children, realizing your dreams, seeing the world and improving yourself and the world around you. And with the exponential growth in computer processing power that is taking place at the moment, that moment will come much, much sooner than most people realize. And this is wonderful. and enables a standard of wealth for every earthling formerly thought impossible. However, this is also why we have no choice in the matter. Because if we don't get rid of this monetary economy now, before this extreme automation takes place, and it already is taking place, we will be left with ever-increasing unemployment, increased economic stratification as a result, poverty, and an even bigger gap between those who have and those who have not, than is the case already. And that will result in social upheaval the world hasn't seen in a long, long time. And it will all be the result of money and our current economic system. A system that is based on faith, because it is only our faith or belief in money that gives it its value. The gold it used to represent is long gone. So we simply have to stop believing and wake up to the reality that only by doing away with this antiquated and by now corrupt system will we make the leap to the next level of civilization. It all depends on our ambition and our striving.
Let's play a lightning round game. I'm gonna be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people. I have enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators, so you're gonna help me legally get away with all of this. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, I want to run. If I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC funded. Okay, so let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great. So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. And that is considered speech. That money is considered speech. So I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in, I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Fabulous. Now, is there any hard limit that I have, perhaps Mrs. Hobart Flynn, is there any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence, especially if I'm based on the special interest funds that I accepted to finance my campaign and get me elected in the first place?
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
Okay, so awesome. Now, Mr. Mirabani, the last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Mirabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes.
All right, so one last thing, Mr. Schaub. In relation to congressional oversight that we have, the limits that are placed on me as a congresswoman, compared to the executive branch and compared to, say, the President of the United States, Would you say that Congress has the same sort of standard of accountability? Is there more teeth in that regulation in Congress on the president, or would you say it's about even, or more so on the federal?
In terms of laws that apply to the president, yeah, there's just almost no laws at all that apply to the president.
So I'm being held, and every person in this body is being held to a higher ethical standard than the President of the United States.
That's right.
I envision a world where worries about whether you'll make it next month because of that pile of bills are a thing of the past. Not to mention all the people that are starving for food even in today's world. Because of a lack of money, not because of a lack of resources. The notion there are not enough resources is a lie meant to perpetuate this imagined scarcity that our economy depends on so hard. Gone for everybody will be that nagging tight feeling in their solar plexus caused by our current system of slavery. Because that is what money is, especially when combined with this fractional reserve lending that's going on today. Why? Because of interest. Because nobody can show you from where within the money stockpile that interest is supposed to be paid. Because that money doesn't exist. So they print more, devaluating all your savings through inflation, thereby basically lowering your salary retroactively. And the people who can't pay that interest have to give up their possessions, their houses, their cars, the real stuff of value. So the banks get more and more of this true value, while we only collect more and more debts. You have to wager your house, while effectively all they do is type in some numbers on your account. This is inherent to the current system, and it isn't like that by accident, but to extend the status quo for those in power. To maintain the control they have over you. But what can we do about that? What power do we have, you ask? We are that power. The government exercises its power only by the consent of the people it governs. We have to stand up and say no, we do not consent. Without our consent, there is no government, and it is time we start exercising that power again. To create a new world order that we would like to see, instead of the one envisioned by those currently in power who want to create this totalitarian farce. A global system, yes, but based on freedom and harmony instead. This new world is a world whereby the very nature of the system, being selfish, looking out for your own good, is equal to looking out for the good of everybody. Because whatever makes you better, makes everybody better. A world where all information is available to everyone, instead of the world we live in today, where so much is being held from us in terms of knowledge and technology, that it has held us back for more than a century by now. The petrol engine was invented more than a century ago, and 100 years later we are still driving and flying the same old things around, albeit a little bit more sophisticated. You don't think it's a little weird that nothing new was thought up in the meantime? That's because a lot of new stuff was thought up, but held from you, by the very people you elected to look after your best interests. The US alone holds back and confiscates over 2,000 patents a year, because they would destabilize the system or the economy, in other words, reduce their power and profits. And I'm talking stuff like free energy here, not some new toothbrush patent. This thing we call democracy is just that, a word. A concept in our heads and only in our heads, an illusion. Did we ever vote to go to war, to pollute, or to have a corrupt system? Did we ever vote to have monetary interests outweigh the human factor? Of course we didn't. Democracy has never really existed anywhere but in our intentions. And it is money that creates this division of opinions and sentiments in the first place. Money and lack or scarcity. And since the first causes the second in today's world, the next step to take is more than clear. Now you may ask, but how do we do this? You can't possibly implement this globally in our current political climate. That is why we start with one city, built according to this model. A university city, a center of knowledge, where we will lay the groundwork for the next one. Just imagine the possibilities you get when designing and building a city from the ground up in terms of efficiency. This first city will form the proving grounds for this model. But I can assure you, this city, named Utopolis ONE, will do incredible and produce so much abundance that it will be prosperous enough in no time to enable the formation of a second city. Because of all the advantages I just described. Because such a city would at first trade with the rest of the world, of course, and make money doing so. And it will keep doing so until this system has assimilated the entire globe. At that point, money will be gone completely. And this will happen faster than you think, because when people see these cities in action and see what is possible, everybody will want to live like that. And they will be happy to give up any old grudge based on a lack of resources, and even most of those based on religious premises. Because in the end, when we all live in abundance, there will be little reason left to fight. And contrary to what the news wants you to believe, killing each other is not in our nature, only in our nurture. As such, there will be zero tolerance for violence. But we won't punish it either. Punishment should be a thing of the past. As science is showing us that free will is largely an illusion and that human behavior cannot be seen separate from its surroundings, we need to realize that punishing people for their behavior is like punishing a baby for slipping and falling because you didn't clean the floor well enough. We are punishing the victims, who are symptoms of our current system. You treat people for their behavior where necessary, but for the most part, it's all a matter of simply changing the environment, and behavior will follow suit. Once we start realizing that only by changing the environment we can change human behavior, we will make leaps forward in morality and ethics in the blink of an eye. What our future holds, my friends, is first and foremost limited by the boundaries of our imagination. If we can dare to dream it, we'll make it happen. Starting today, if that is our decision. If we don't do this soon, it might be too late. But I have faith in our abilities. So please share this video as much as you can so that everybody starts sharing in this dream, and so that this video also reaches those with the means to help make this vision the reality of tomorrow, our heritage to our children. Let's show the universe that humanity performs its greatest feats when in the most dire of situations. Like diamonds we are made under enormous pressure, but emerging from the dirt with the resulting brilliance that is unmatched in the universe. And on that note, I will end this episode for now. I hope I wasn't too preachy. In the next episode, I will give an introduction to the 7 hermetic principles in another edition of Spirit Seekers. The episode after that will be another E for E, evidence for extraterrestrials. Until the next one, love y'all, auf Wiedersehen.